The alien crowd roared as the old human priest was dragged into the arena. His hands were tied with glowing chains, his white robe torn and dusty. Two large alien guards, covered in black armor, pushed him forward roughly. He did not fight, he did not speak. He simply walked with calm eyes. All around him, thousands of aliens watched, laughing, mocking, shouting cruel words. This one? He's the human they fear? One alien hissed, "He looks like a lost monk, not a warrior." Another shouted, up in the high seat. A tall alien general watched with sharp eyes. His skin was dark purple, his teeth sharp, his armor heavy with metals. Beside him stood his daughter, a young alien girl with glowing silver eyes. She looked down at the old man, her arms crossed, her face confused. "Father," she whispered, "why do they call him dangerous?" "He is so small," the general laughed deeply. "Because, my child, he carries the voice of old nightmares." She didn't understand, but the way her father said it sent a chill through her spine. The priest was pushed to the center of the arena, where a circle of black stones surrounded him. A voice from above shouted, "Human priest, speak your last words before you die." Still, the priest stayed silent. He raised his head slowly, looking around at the aliens who wanted him dead. Then he opened his mouth, but instead of fear, begging, or anger, he spoke one strange word. It was not in any known language. It echoed through the air like a bell from another world. The laughter stopped. The air grew cold. Some aliens looked around, blinking, confused. The silver-eyed girl felt something crawl over her skin, like a memory she didn't know she had. She stepped back, her heart beating faster. The priest spoke again, just a few soft words, ancient and deep. The ground beneath him cracked, just a little, like something old was waking. The black stones around him began to glow. One of the guards dropped his weapon and fell to his knees. He screamed, clutching his head. The other guard backed away in terror, shouting, "What is this? What is he doing?" But the priest didn't move, didn't touch anyone. He only spoke in that strange, powerful voice. It was not loud, but it shook the air like thunder from long ago. The general stood up, confused. "Stop him! Silence him now!" More guards rushed into the arena, guns raised, ready to fire. But as they stepped into the stone circle, they froze. Their weapons dropped. Their eyes turned white. They stood like statues, as if trapped in time. The alien girl grabbed her father's arm. "He's not doing this with tech, he's using words," the general growled. "No one speaks the dead tongue of the ancients." Unless he didn't finish. He couldn't, because now the priest was glowing, faint light rising from his skin. Symbols appeared across his arms and chest. Old symbols, ones even the general had only seen in ruined temples. The girl whispered, "I've seen those before." In my dreams, the priest opened his eyes, now glowing with golden light. He looked straight at the girl, not at the general, not at the guards, just her, and for a moment, she felt like the world stopped moving. Something inside her cracked open. Like an old door in her mind, she saw flashes, strange places, ancient battles, temples with singing walls. She saw humans and aliens standing together, not fighting, but united. Then it was gone. The priest looked away and fell silent again. The arena was completely quiet now. No one laughed, no one moved. The general shouted again, "Take him away. Put him in chains and lock him in the deepest cell." The guards hesitated, but finally obeyed, grabbing the old priest, though fear shook in their hands. As they dragged him away, the girl watched in silence. She wasn't laughing. She wasn't mocking. She was scared and curious. Who was this man? How could a human priest stop soldiers with just words? Why did his voice feel like it was calling to her blood? She turned to her father, but he was looking down, sweating, silent. For the first time in her life, she saw fear in the eyes of the great general, and deep inside her, something whispered, "He has come, the one who remembers." *ChatGPT sighed. The prison lights flickered the moment they pushed the old priest into his cell. The walls were made of solid steel, impossible to break, yet the air inside felt alive. 2 guards locked the heavy door, but neither dared to look him in the eye. He simply sat down on the floor, crossed his legs, and closed his eyes like nothing bothered him. Outside the cell, the alien girl waited in the shadows, her silver eyes locked on the priest. She had followed the guards all the way from the arena, her curiosity stronger than her fear. Who was this man? Why did his voice shake the ground? She touched the wall softly, feeling it pulse under her hand like it was breathing. Strange symbols were forming, glowing faintly in the metal, the same symbols she saw on his skin. In her mind, the same whisper returned, clearer now. He remembers. She bit her lip, unsure if she was going crazy or finally waking up. Inside the cell, the priest opened his eyes and looked at the wall. His lips moved, slow and soft, like a prayer. The words didn't make sense to the girl, but they made her heart race. Suddenly, the lights in the entire prison wing went out. Emergency red lights flashed, alarms buzzed, but only for a second, then silence. She peeked around the corner and saw something terrifying. 2 guards stood at attention outside the cell, frozen, their eyes wide and blank. They were breathing but not moving, not blinking. The priest was still inside the cell, still sitting, still calm. He looked up at the ceiling and whispered something. In the same strange language, the metal above him changed. It stretched, shifted, like it was made of liquid. And right before the girl's eyes, a symbol appeared, large and glowing with soft white light. It wasn't tech, it wasn't magic, it felt older than both. She stepped closer, her hands shaking. The priest turned toward the wall, as if he could see through it, and spoke gently. "You're still watching." The girl jumped back, hiding behind the corner, her breath caught in her throat. How did he know she was there? She waited, heart pounding, then slowly stepped out, her voice trembling. "What are you?" The priest looked up, calm as ever. "I am what your people tried to forget." She frowned. "You speak the forbidden's tongue. The one from the old legends." "I don't just speak it," he replied softly. "It speaks through me." She stared at him, unsure whether to run or listen more. "Then who taught you?" she asked. "I listened," he said, smiling faintly. "I listened when no one else did." Suddenly, the wall of his cell shifted again and opened with a hiss. No alarms, no weapons, no explosions, just silence. He stood slowly and stepped out, right in front of her. The guards remained frozen, their minds somewhere far away. The girl didn't run, though she wanted to. Instead, she asked, "Why did you come here?" "I didn't," he said, his voice calm. "Your people brought me." But something older guided them. The corridor lights dimmed again as the prison began to hum strangely. Pipes rattled, walls creaked, as if the entire structure was remembering something long buried. He looked around, touching the walls gently with his fingers. "They built this prison over something sacred," he whispered. "And now it stirs." She looked at him, shocked. "You're not afraid?" He looked at her deeply. "Fear is for those who forget who they are." She stepped closer, almost in a trance. "Then who am I?" He paused, as if weighing her soul. "You are the first light in a dark room." His words struck her harder than any weapon. And in that moment, she remembered her dream, the one with glowing temples and broken stars. "I saw you," she whispered, "in my dream, long before I met you." He nodded once. "I've walked in many dreams, searching for the one who would listen." Suddenly, the floor cracked under them slightly, and green light pulsed beneath the metal. The prison shook as something beneath began to rise, something long hidden. The priest looked at the girl and smiled. "Are you ready to see the truth?" She couldn't answer, but her legs moved on their own, walking beside him as they headed deeper into the prison. Behind them, lights flickered wildly, and every security camera shattered. The system could no longer see them, only the old power could, and it had finally found its voice again, through the human priest. The walls whispered as they walked. though no mouths spoke. The old priest moved like he had been here before, his fingers brushing the stone as if greeting an old friend. Beside him, the alien girl said nothing, but her silver eyes shifted quickly. Watching the way the prison bent around him, they walked deeper underground into a part of the complex that hadn't been used in decades. Doors opened without sound. Lights flickered to life where no power should have existed. Old symbols appeared on the walls, matching the ones still glowing on the priest's arms. She wanted to ask him how he did this, but every time she opened her mouth, her voice vanished. He finally stopped in front of a sealed metal door, older than anything she had seen. The air was different here, heavier, like it was thick with memory. The priest placed his palm on the door and closed his eyes. It didn't open, not at first. Instead, the wall around it melted, slowly turning into something like light and stone at once. Behind it was a chamber made entirely of smooth white crystal. The girl stepped inside, her boots making soft clicks against the shining floor. It wasn't a room, not really. It felt like a temple, or a heart, or a mind. At the center stood a strange object, part seat, part machine, part living thing. It pulsed faintly with a green-blue light, like it was breathing. She turned to the priest. "What is this place?" He looked at her carefully, a memory that refuses to die. He stepped forward and sat at the base of the strange object, his back straight, his eyes closing. The moment he did, the room changed. Lights flashed across the crystal walls, images of stars, wars, beings made of both flesh and energy. She gasped as she saw her own people, thousands of years ago, kneeling before humans in robes like the priests. "Impossible," she said under her breath. "We ruled the stars." "Not them," the priest's voice echoed through the chamber, though his lips didn't move. "You ruled fear, not truth." The girl turned sharply. "Then what's the truth?" "That once your kind and mine shared the same breath, the same heart." She felt something stir in her again, like the dream, only stronger. One of the glowing panels showed a woman with silver eyes like hers. She stood beside a man dressed like the priest, their hands linked, energy swirling between them. Girl stepped closer to the wall, her fingers trembling. "That looks like me," the priest spoke again. "She was the first to bind the two bloods, and the last to be erased from your books." The air grew colder, as if the room itself mourned. "I don't understand," she whispered. "You will," the priest said, opening his eyes slowly. "Because she lives in you." The glowing object behind him pulsed harder, and the chamber began to shake. Far above, alarms sounded, voices shouted, but none of it could reach them now. The ground cracked, and light poured from below. The priest stood and placed his hand on the girl's shoulder. This place was waiting for someone who could unlock it. "Me?" she asked, afraid. "Yes," he said, gently. "Because your blood remembers." Without warning, the ground split further, revealing a staircase made of pure light, spiraling downward. The girl stared at it, then looked at the priest. "What's down there?" she asked. He looked deeper than anyone ever had before and answered, "Your real name." And with that, he stepped into the light. She hesitated for only a second, then followed. Behind them, the crystal room faded, returning to stone and silence. But something had been awakened, and it would never sleep again. The staircase didn't feel like it was built. It felt like it was grown. Each step glowed beneath their feet, but made no sound, as if light itself had turned solid just to carry them. The priest moved without hesitation, but the girl kept glancing over her shoulder, above them. The prison was now in chaos. Security forces were running in all directions, alarms screaming, walls breaking. But down here, there was silence, heavy silence, like the kind that fills the air before a storm strikes. The deeper they went, the more the air changed. It smelled ancient, not dusty or rotten, but sacred, like the air had been untouched for 1,000 lifetimes. The girl couldn't feel her own heartbeat anymore. It was like something else had started beating inside her chest, at the bottom of the stairs. They stepped into a circular chamber made of black stone and golden veins. In the center stood a tall mirror, smooth as glass, with no reflection. Instead of showing them, it showed stars. The girl gasped. The mirror displayed a galaxy twisting in slow motion. But then the stars scattered, and an image appeared. A woman, her face almost identical to the girl's, stood proud, her arms glowing with light. Beside her was a man, younger than the priest, but wearing the same robes. The priest whispered, "You see her now?" The girl nodded slowly. "I've seen her in my dreams. I thought she was just a story. She was real," he said. "And she was the key to everything." The mirror showed war planets burning, machines screaming, and armies running from something unseen. Then, the woman gave the man a glowing crystal, and light spread across the stars, ending the war in an instant. The mirror went dark. The girl stood frozen, her hands clenched. She saved the galaxy. Then why is her name forgotten? The priest looked at the stone under their feet. Because those in power rewrite what they fear. He stepped toward the mirror and placed his hand on it. It shimmered, then turned solid again, showing his face, but not old like now, younger, stronger, filled with light. The girl stepped forward. You were there too?" "I was one of them," he admitted. "One of the last to remember the true union." Her voice shook. "Then why come now? Why to us?" "Because you carry her blood," he said gently, "and they will come for you soon." The chamber began to tremble, slow at first, then stronger. Symbols on the walls lit up one by one, speaking in flashes of language her mind could almost understand. A voice echoed, not from the priest, not from the mirror, but from inside her skull. "She is awake," the girl gasped, grabbing her head. "Did you hear that?" He nodded. "The memory inside you is no longer asleep." She stepped back, afraid. "But I don't know what to do." "You don't have to," he said. "It already knows what you are." Suddenly, a beam of golden light shot from the floor, surrounding her. The priest didn't move, his face calm. As if he expected this, she floated a few inches above the ground, arms stretched out, her eyes glowing bright silver. Memories poured into her, millions at once. She saw the first city, the first war, the first time a human and alien shared the same soul. Tears ran down her face. But she wasn't sad, she was remembering. The light faded, and she dropped to her knees, gasping. The priest helped her up. "Now you know." She looked at her hands. They shimmered faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. Above them, the sound of walls breaking and metal twisting returned. They were being hunted again. The priest turned to the mirror, now showing the face of the alien general, her father. He was furious, shouting orders, preparing weapons. "He's afraid," the girl whispered. "He knows what I've become." Priest nodded. "And now the war of truth begins." She didn't flinch, didn't cry. For the first time in her life, she felt whole. She looked at the mirror and said to her father's face, "You chained a priest and buried a goddess, but both are free now." The mirror shattered silently, and the room went dark again, but their light did not. A thunderous boom cracked through the heavens above as the priest and the girl emerged from the hidden chamber. The ground trembled, not from machines, but from something older rising beneath their feet. Soldiers were already waiting outside, armed with shock rifles, blast grenades, and shaking hands. They stood in a semicircle, aiming at the priest as if sheer numbers could stop him. But none dared to step closer. The girl stepped in front of him without thinking, her silver eyes now glowing like twin moons. One of the younger soldiers whispered, "She's one of them now." The others looked at each other in fear, unsure whether to fire or kneel. Then the priest raised one hand, and every weapon in the circle exploded, not in flames, but in silence. Metal crumbled into dust, electronics turned to ash still. The priest never touched them. He only looked, and they fell. One soldier screamed and ran, dropping his helmet as he disappeared into the smoke. The rest followed, throwing away their weapons like they burned to hold. The priest lowered his hands slowly, his breathing calm, but the girl was not calm. She stared at the symbols now flowing over her arms like living ink. "What am I becoming?" she asked, her voice both hers and someone else's. The priest didn't smile this time. "Not becoming, returning." A sudden flash lit the sky above them. 3 alien warships appeared, low and loud. "They're going to destroy the temple," she said, looking back at the hidden chamber entrance. "No," the priest replied. "They're going to try." From his robe, he pulled out a small wooden cross, worn with age. He held it high, not as a weapon, but as a signal. All 3 ships paused, engines humming, targeting systems locking. On him, then nothing happened. No missile, no blast, no strike, just static. Every ship's lights flickered, then died, one by one, within seconds. They began falling from the sky, not exploding, not crashing, floating downward like feathers. One landed in the trees. Another settled near the ruins. The third simply stopped mid-air, stuck like a fly in amber, from the forests around them. Aliens came out, hundreds, maybe thousands, some in uniform. Some civilians. They gathered in silence, staring at the priest and the girl. But there was no anger, only awe. One old alien stepped forward, kneeling. "We remember now." Another followed. "The stories were true." The priest nodded. "Your memory was buried, but never erased." The alien girl's voice cut through the crowd, louder than she meant. "Then why did they hide it?" A whisper rose among the aliens like wind through dry leaves. "Fear," they said. All at once, the girl turned to the priest. "They fear what we can be together," he answered without words, only placing the old wooden cross gently into her hand. The moment she touched it, her heartbeat sensed with something vast and timeless. Images rushed through her: battles, songs, births, unions, all forgotten truths stored in sacred blood. From the crowd, a young alien child stepped forward and pointed at her. "Are you her?" the child asked, eyes wide. The girl knelt down and took the child's hand. "I don't know," she said softly, "but I remember her now." Behind them, the fallen warships dissolved into dust, their metal returning to the soil. The priest spoke once more, voice soft but firm. "They will come again, with fire, with lies, with chains." The girl stood tall, holding the wooden cross like it was a sword. "Then let them come," she said. "And this time, we'll remember together." ChatGPT said. The sky turned red, not from sunset, but from the arrival of ships too large to be seen in full. They didn't descend. They blocked the stars, their shadows swallowing light. The priest stood at the edge of the ruined temple grounds, his robe fluttering in the strange wind pouring from above. Beside him, the alien girl watched the sky with calm, silver eyes, no longer a child of confusion. All around them, thousands gathered, aliens of every kind, silent, waiting, breathing as one. From the sky, a voice thundered, deep and cruel, "Return the heretic priest and the false prophet child. No harm will come to the rest." No one moved. The girl's grip on the wooden cross tightened, the warmth of it steady in her hand. The priest looked up, his voice clear. "We are not yours to command." Silence followed. Then a single blue beam shot down from the command ship. It struck the earth where they stood, yet there was no impact, no fire. Instead, the beam stopped in midair, like it had hit an invisible wall. Inside the light, something began to scream, not a weapon, but the machine itself. The girl stepped forward, raising her free hand, and with one wave, the beam shattered into pieces like broken glass. The crowd gasped, and a ripple passed through them. Shock, then awe, then something else, belief. The priest's eyes met hers. "It's time," she nodded. Understanding without explanation. From her body, the light began to rise, not forced, not summoned, just released. Every line of her skin shimmered. Every strand of her hair glowed like moonlight. She walked slowly to the center of the temple. Ruins, the place where the crystal mirror had once stood. The ground responded, pulsing with her steps. Symbols returned, some burned into the stone, others floating in the air around her like dust made of memory. High above, the enemy ships prepared their full assault. Rows of soldiers armed with advanced tech stood ready. Their orders clear: wipe out the rebirth, silence the truth. But something strange began to happen. The soldiers hesitated, their weapons shaking in their hands. Some began to whisper words they didn't understand, words they'd never heard. Words from the old tongue, from every direction. The gathered crowd began to chant, not loud, but united. They didn't know the meaning, but the sound filled their bones. The air bent, the sky cracked, and light from deep beneath the earth surged upward. The priest placed both hands on the ground, his voice joining theirs. He wasn't leading them, he was unlocking them. The alien girl levitated once more, light swirling around her like a storm. And then she spoke, just one word, ancient and powerful. The same word the priest had once whispered in chains. It echoed across the valley, reached the ships above, broke into every transmission, melted every weapon. One by one, the command ships shut down, their lights flickered, then faded. Soldiers dropped their guns, many falling to their knees. Not in defeat, but in surrender. The girl landed softly, her eyes full of tears, but her voice steady. "We do not kneel to lies anymore," she said. "Not to power, not to fear, not to history rewritten." The priest stepped beside her, his old body weak, but his spirit bright. Together they stood at the heart of a new beginning, and all around them, the stars began to return. The stars above them pulsed like eyes finally opening after a long dreamless sleep. Where once warships had hovered, now only drifting metal remained silent, powerless, forgotten. The alien girl stood at the center of the sacred ground, barefoot, on stone that glowed with ancient warmth. The priest sat behind her, leaning on his staff of bone and wood, the color fading from his face, but not from his soul. Crowds stretched as far as the eye could see, alien elders, frightened children, soldiers who had dropped their rifles and dropped their pride. No one spoke, but all could feel it, the ending of something old, and the beginning of something that had never been allowed to breathe. The girl raised her hand slowly, her skin flickering with memory light. Above her, the sky opened not with fire, but with vision, not a dream, not a screen, something older, something true. The stars rearranged themselves into shapes, forming moments from long ago, images of humans and aliens side by side, standing in temples of stone and fire, singing in one language, not two, a forgotten history poured from the heavens like rain. And none could look away. The priest's voice rose again, weak but clear. "We were never meant to be divided," he said. "Not by blood, not by fear, not by time." The girl turned to face the crowd, and for a moment, she looked like someone else, someone they all somehow knew. The girl from legend, the one whose name had been buried beneath lies, the mother of unity, the warrior of peace, the first child of both worlds. She spoke gently, but her voice reached even the furthest ears. "Your memories were stolen," she said, "but not lost. And now they return to you, not as weapons, but as truth." Aliens began to weep, some collapsing to their knees, some laughing, some simply standing still with wide eyes. Above them, the stars shimmered brighter, and for the first time in generations, they no longer felt cold. The girl walked to the priest and knelt before him. "You knew," she said softly, "all. This time you were never alone." He smiled weakly, eyes full of light. "I was always waiting for you." She took his hand, and energy flowed between them, warm, golden, endless, all around them. Structures began to rise from the earth, pillars of memory, towers of old light, temples not built but remembered. The old world was not returning, it was being reborn. And the priest, the one they had mocked, feared, and chained, was now its final seed. His body began to fade, turning to dust, but his voice lingered. "I was not your nightmare," he whispered to the wind. "I was your memory, waiting to awaken." The girl held his robe as it crumbled, tears falling silently. She did not cry in sorrow, but in deep knowing. The crowd stood in silence as the last of the human priest became one with the soil, and where he vanished, tree began to grow, glowing, slow and eternal. Its roots wrapped around the world. Its branches reached for the stars. The girl stood beneath it, no longer confused, no longer alone. Now they saw her not as a daughter of rebellion, not as a symbol, but as what she truly was, a bridge, and she looked to the stars and said, "We are not broken anymore." High above, the stars answered back, flashing once in perfect silence. The nightmare had ended, and the remembering had begun.